crowd, thanks once again for tuning in. Now, economist Dr. Eric Ochaba has advised government to come up with an alternative plan to forestall any revenue shortfall should the final ruling by the German-based International Tribunal of the Law of the Sea, ITLOS, goes against Ghana. According to Dr. Ochaba, most of government's projects and initiatives are based on revenue expected from the oil and gas sector. The ITLOS is expected to give its final ruling on the maritime boundary dispute between Ghana and neighboring Ivory Coast tomorrow, that is September 23. Commenting on the issue with Joy Business, Dr. Ochaba suggested a strategic plan to avert any eventualities, even though he was optimistic Ghana would win.
If it doesn't go our way, it's really going to constrain investment, any new investment in that area, and that can affect revenue inflows from crude oil over a period of time. And so it's not going to be good for government. Government revenue from petroleum could go down, which then means that government will be constrained in some of the things that it has put in the budget. And so if it goes well, it's all well and good for the economy. We are likely to see some kind of revival in the exploration sector in terms of in the extractive industry. A lot more revenue inflows, capital inflows will come into the economy, and we're likely to see some semblance of what happened around 2010, 2011, where we have enough foreign currency inflows into the extractive sector. And if that happens, it's going to inure to the betterment of this country. The city will be stabilized and much more production or factories, related factories, will come in to, provide some kind of employment to the teeming youth of this country. So, and government revenue too could go up, and the stabilization fund, heritage fund, all of that would go up. So it will definitely be good for this country if it goes our way. But if it doesn't, I think by now we should be thinking about Plan B. What exactly would we do to mitigate, the negative impact that may have on this economy? The economy has to be managed in such a way that it is resilient to shocks, which will come anyway from time to time. You're going to, once the economy remains vulnerable and so much linked with external economies, anything that happens externally can have impact. But what matters most is whether the economy is positioned in such a way that the effect of such shocks, is minimized. So we have to begin to look at what strategy are we going to have in place to minimize whatever the outcome will be. I think it's important. So let's see, but I'm quite hopeful that tomorrow the ruling will go our way.
Now, the primary operator of the Jubilee and 10 partnership, Tullow Oil, has expressed how sensitive the disputed area is to the company's operations. Speaking to Joy Business, Group CEO of Tullow, Paul McDad, noted the disputed maritime area is key to the entire group's activities.
We're confident that we will be going back to drilling next year. I've been this week in Ghana and here in Accra meeting with the new government, and they reassure me that there'll be an appropriate resolution to the boundary dispute through ITLOS, and we'll be able to move forward.
How critical is this to the group in terms of getting past this thing and going ahead with your strategy and everything? Because I know that you do your own extrapolations and projections, and all these investors are also doing the same thing.
Yeah.
How critical is the completion or the finalization of this in terms of the group's plan, strategy, and implementing all the things that you have planned to turn around the business?
I think is it critical? Well, I think it's very important. I think what's important is that we've been a great champion for investment here in Ghana. Ghana is a great investment destination, and we want to portray it globally. We're a global player. We're out with global investors who watch our investments, and a big part of that investment is here in West Africa, and particularly in Ghana. So I think what's important to us is to be able to demonstrate that the investment that was made in 10, we can get on and maximise the revenues from that investment, both on behalf of the state of Ghana in terms of the fiscal payments we make, and also the returns that we want to return to our shareholders. So I wouldn't say it's critical to our business going forward, but it's very important, you know, and it's important cash flow. All cash flow is important, but I think the important thing is that with a smooth resolution of the boundary dispute, it demonstrates to inward investors that Ghana and West Africa is a good place to invest, it's a good destination to invest, and that's something that ever since we got involved in Ghana in 2006, over 10 years ago, we've been out in the global markets pushing the case for investment in Ghana and pointing to our good relationship with the various governments that we've worked with and our ability to invest our investors' money in Ghana.
So the countdown is on to Judgment Day, if you like. The International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, ITLOS, will in less than 24 hours, as we've been telling you, settle the disagreement between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire over an area where Ghana is currently exploiting oil and gas resources. Ghana headed to the tribunal after it had failed to resolve the matter through diplomatic discussions. Ahead of the special chamber's decision, JoyNews put the spotlight on demands each country is making. You can watch this.
The demands by both countries are at sharp variance. Both countries want a declaration, with each unwilling to make a concession. Ghana is asking the chamber to state that Ivory Coast has for years agreed that the area in dispute belongs to Ghana. Agent Gloria Kufu told the chamber in a wrap-up that Ivory Coast was barred from making such a demand due to this admission for decades. The Ghana delegation won't have any of this. AG Gloria Kufu requested an outright rejection.
There is no valid reason to depart from a maritime boundary which the parties have both long considered as lawful and equitable in its effects.
On Saturday, all eyes will be on a 5-member chamber presided over by Boalem Bugetea.
Thank you. The session is closed.
So, the case will be closed. For JoyNews, Joseph Akable reporting.
All right, so we're keeping our fingers crossed and awaiting Judgment Day. And while we wait for news of what is going to happen on Saturday, I want to tell you about something exciting that is taking place at the Junction Mall at Nungua. If you've been monitoring our reporting, you'd realize that we've been telling you a lot about the Made in Ghana Fair being organized by Joy Prime TV. Let's touch base with Ibrahim Bembako to bring us up to speed on activities at the fair. Thanks for joining us, IB. I was there earlier in the day. Of course, the weather slowed down things, but as the hours go by, we are seeing lots and lots of people troop to the Junction Mall to patronize the fair. Give us a flavor of the atmosphere where you are right now.
Okay, so Daryl, like you said earlier on, myself, I got here around 2. It was a bit slow, but it looks like the people have started coming in, they started trooping in. And I spoke with some people earlier on, they were telling me that, yeah, it was a bit slow, but it started picking up. A typical example is this particular stand, St. Oswald. Now, you know, everything here, everything you're seeing here at the Junction Mall is proudly made in Ghana. We have some beautiful shoes by St. Oswald, which is made right here in Ghana. And I have one of the rep here who I'm going to talk to. Hi, boss. How are you doing?
Doing good, sir.
Okay. So how has the sales been, or how's the patronage been today compared to yesterday?
Well, yesterday is better than today. Today is a bit slow.
It's a bit slow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's to us. I don't know about other side.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's been slow since morning, I know. The weather was a contributing factor, the fact that they've gone to work. But they've started trooping in. Has it been any better since morning?
I would say it's been like 10% better.
Okay.
Since morning.
Since morning, 10% better.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, Daryl, there you heard some of the exhibitors. Yes, live on Joy News. Boss, how you doing? Mom, how you doing?
Fine.
Boss, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
So, Mom, has your expectations been met ever since you came here?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Have you gotten something you like?
Yeah, we did. We got a red wine.
You got a red wine?
Yeah.
Daryl. Mom here, Grandma here got a red wine.
You tell you what,
coming from the house, what was your expectation?
Exactly as you wanted. Like, you know, we actually didn't know there was going to be a lot of stands around. But when we came, I think it's okay.
Are you impressed?
Very, very much impressed. I think.
Are you going to be here tomorrow?
Definitely, because I was just passing through and then I was like, wow, I think I have to be here tomorrow. I mean, fully packed and then, you know, yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes, some of the shoppers. Boss, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Okay, good. Are you now coming in?
I just came.
You just came. Why?
Yeah. I'm doing some tests on way.
Oh, okay. But how do you find the Made in Ghana?
Oh, it's very lucrative. It's very nice. Yeah.
Have you purchased anything yet?
No, I'm here too.
You're yet?
Yes.
You just walked in?
Yeah, just walked.
Okay, go and find something to buy. I'm sure we'll talk again. Boss, how are you doing?
I'm cool.
Okay, you are here to see what is going on here. So far, have your expectations been met?
Pardon?
So far, have you seen what you want here?
Yeah, yes, a lot.
Have you bought anything?
Yeah, yesterday I bought 2 items.
You bought what and what did you buy?
Made in Ghana shoes.
Made in Ghana shoes?
Yes.
Are you very excited about them?
Yeah, very, very good.
Are they good?
Very good.
Have you started wearing them?
I'll do it on Monday.
Okay, thank you so very much. So those are some of the shoppers you're having here who are very excited and expectations are being met. I don't know about the Island tablet. You know, this is proudly Ghana. Island tablets for kids and it's made here. Hi guys, how are you guys doing? Boss, please join me up here. Yes. So Daryl, this is what is going on here. Shoppers are excited.
Interesting stuff.
Exhibitors themselves are good. Boss, what's your name?
Yeah, please, my name is
IB reporting there, Ibrahim Bembak reporting there from the Junction Mall, where we are bringing you what is taking place at the Joy Prime Made in Ghana Fair. But you can tell from the responses we are getting from people who are patronizing the fair that they are getting indeed very quality products, and that, you know what, we can't believe in our Made in Ghana products. So we put a question to people over there. I was there earlier. I put a question to them. What can government do to boost patronage of Made in Ghana products? Our board was mounted there, and we're going to bring you some of the responses we got from the people who patronize the fair. 2 of the Joy Prime Made in Ghana Fair, we have been soliciting the views of people on what government must do to boost Made in Ghana products in the country. We've got very interesting answers. If you would come close and you let's show them what people are saying. This one says building of factories and exporting goods. We have somebody also saying that government must provide funding for innovative business ideas. Now, this one says government must ensure citizens use Made in Ghana products. I know that there has been a campaign over the past few months to get people to patronize Made in Ghana products, but we don't see how far that is going. So that is perspective from somebody else. Interesting comment from this other person who says government must also impose an embargo on imported goods. I don't know exactly how that is possible, but we can start little by little, right? Okay. This other comment from somebody who is patronizing the fair today. Government must reduce the prices of raw materials to make things cheaper. Now, interacting with people, one of the things they've been talking about is the fact that they have to import raw materials, and it's expensive, and that also affects the price of the goods that they sell. So government has to step in, make the price of raw materials cheaper for them to ensure that, you know, people are able to produce at a cheaper cost. This one says government must intensify and advocate or put together a policy that will motivate people to produce, to patronize rather goods locally. I think that's what the person wanted to say. And what is really interesting for me, the very last comment that says that our leaders must be the immediate example. What happened to getting our state agencies to, you know, be the to procure goods made in Ghana first before looking elsewhere? So this person is saying that government must be the example. If you want Ghanaians to patronize Made in Ghana products, let's see you do it. Let's see some action from your end, and I bet that the citizens will follow. So these are the comments and perspectives coming to us from the Junction Mall here, where it is the second day of the Joy Prime Made in Ghana Fair, which is going on from now till Sunday. All right, so if you have time this weekend, you just want to pass by the Junction Mall at Nungwa to see those very exquisite stuff that is being displayed there at the Joy Prime Made in Ghana Fair. I want to move away from there to this other story that we are following for you today. The Association of Ghana Industries is still making a case for banks to reduce their interest rates. Banks have come under pressure in the last few months to reduce their interest rates following the consistent drop in the policy rate by the central bank. Now, banks have indicated several other factors are keeping interest rates high. However, the association says the central bank must strengthen its monitoring role to ensure that at the appropriate time, the interest rates come down. Here is Sir Eric Ochaba, his chief executive of the Association of Ghana Industries.
We definitely need to have a reduction in the interest rate. It's one issue that has always come up, and the banks are aware that with high interest cost, it makes most of the projects, not commercially viable, and therefore a reduction in interest rate is important. And we always link it to the policy rate because it's a major determinant. And now that we've seen consistent reduction in the policy rate, we would like to see it translated into lower interest rates. So it is indeed an issue. And because you see, if you don't have a lower interest rate, it makes your cost of doing business very high. And if your cost of doing business is high, it means that your product price must also be high. And the higher your product price, the less competitive you are, even within your own market and also the outside market. And therefore, it doesn't make good business if your interest rate is very high. So we would like to see it come down, especially since you've seen, consistent fall in the policy rate. And then even the treasury bill rate. It means that government itself is not borrowing that much, and therefore there should be more available loanable funds to the private sector. What I understand is that some of the banks have taken in, have locked in, some investments at high cost, fixed deposit at high cost. So it takes a while for them to free it and lower the interest. But we need to monitor, and then we need to play the kind of role, especially the central bank need to monitor and be sure that at the appropriate time we need to have the interest rates coming down. It is crucial, and it's good for all. Indeed, if you have a lower interest rate, what it means is that the businesses should be able to borrow more. And the more they borrow, the more you finance. As I said, the bank's product is the money. So if they are taking more of your product, any business will tell you that if I have more customers for my products, I'm doing better business. And I think we should get to the stage where there will be so much demand for funds, and whoever takes the fund will be able to pay back. And then everybody is in good business.
Some commercial banks in the country could lose their licenses even before the December 2018 deadline for meeting the new capital levels. This is because these financial institutions still have their minimum capital requirement below the 120 million cedi mark. George Afe has more.
All commercial banks in the country should by now have met the old capital requirement of 120 million Ghana cedis. This was after the Bank of Ghana directed all these financial institutions to improve their capital position to the old requirement by September 20. Some of the troubled banks were also directed to improve their capital adequacy ratio by this same deadline. However, going through the published financial statements of these banks as of June this year shows that not all the banks have met this requirement. Joy Business Check showed that only 10 out of the 32 banks have the stated capital above the 120 million Ghana cedis and can continue to do business, according to the Bank of Ghana directive. The published financial statement showed that even some of the big banks in the country still have their capital levels below this amount, even though they might have some solid income surplus that they can fall on. However, the caution here is that our judgment is based on financial statements ending June this year. Therefore, one is still not sure whether the situation has improved by now. Sources say the Bank of Ghana may not withdraw the licenses of these banks outright, as there are some processes they have to go through before that final action is taken.
In other news tonight, manager of Dan and Bradstreet Ghana, Adebowale Atobatele, has emphasized that a better organization and credit structure will aid the development of the African economy. Speaking on JoyNews' flagship Thought Leadership show, the Executive Lounge, he said good credit structures will aid in improving the quality of life for Africans and in turn improve the economy.
Credit or money from banks or from whatever source was thought of to be something that only the rich could get access to. Right. But now that we have credit bureaus and, with the use of credit reports, everyone should be able to get access to credit, regardless of who they are, regardless of their gender, regardless of their nationality, race, tribe. As long as they have a good credit profile, they should get access to funds, and they should be able to negotiate with the bank the interest rate. And the problem with Africa is not resource, it's not people, it's just how we've chosen to organize ourselves. And if we can tackle issues from, how do I put it without sounding too political, if we could tackle our leadership deficiencies, if we could tackle, certain things within our culture that weakens our civilization, if we can tackle our poor approach to managing money, we'll be a whole lot better.
You don't want to miss that interview this weekend, 6 p.m. on Saturday and 8 p.m. on Sunday. Moving on now to our interview of the day, and the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has rounded up its review meeting on the economy. The committee would next Monday meet journalists to give its verdict on the country's public debt, what it would do with the troubled banks, and for those who are servicing loans, you would want to wait for their decision on the policy rate, which currently stands at 21%. Let's get some more perspective from economist Dr. Eric Ochaba, who analyzes some of the issues being considered by the MPC and what he thinks about the new policy rate to be announced.
Interview of the day.
Policy rate, of course, is an indicative rate around which all the interest rates in this country should revolve. Because that is the policy instrument that the central bank uses to actually anchor the inflation expectations in the country. So obviously, if it's going to change, then it will have some implication on the banking sector, because the banks are watching to see whether it will go down or it's going to be reduced and all of that. But there's also another issue as to whether indeed it has been effective in driving down or in determining banks' interest rate determination policies over the last few years. You've realized that although the monetary policy rate has been coming down, the lending rates, has not really responded as it should have been. And it's all because of the issues surrounding the banking space today. One, the non-performing loans, ratio is still very high, and so it kind of distorts the transmission mechanism for monetary policy, for the effectiveness of monetary policy. Because if the bank, have monetary policy non-performing loan ratio of about 21%, it doesn't really matter to them when the monetary policy rate is coming down, because they tend to still feel that the risk out there is high, and so the risk premium on loans will still be very high, and so it will not have that much effect. And so it distorts that transmission mechanism.
So are you saying the non-performing loans becomes a stagnant or kind of to
yes,
this?
It reduces the potency of the lending rate to respond to the monetary policy rate, because banks look well, it's been coming down, but not as fast as. So we want to see, now that government has started, paying some of the legacy debts, from the energy levy that was imposed, and also government plans to issue bond, to defray this debt. If that happens, then of course we will see some kind of, reduction in lending rates. And of course also the minimum capital requirement that have recently been announced. It's a good policy because of course you need capital to serve as a buffer, as a safety net against lending and risk-taking activities for the banks. It definitely would ensure stability and soundness of the banking sector.
Interview of the day.
We are back same time next week.